My name used to be Latoya, but now I go by Marlo. Hey everybody, welcome to my channel. I'm Raphael and I am here to review part 2 of the reunion to the Real Housewives with Different Names of Atlanta. We start part 2 of Marlo's therapy session by her continuing on from her story last week, how she went on to say how she's been physically and emotionally abused from home to home to home when she was a foster child back in her childhood. Now it's supposed to be emotional and touching, right? Not for Kenya. Kenya is sitting on that couch just looking into the camera, smizing the entire time. I mean, she's just sitting there looking like this. Like she is not buying any of Marlo's archive VS. So finally she speaks up and she's like, Andy, I find it so funny how Marlo all of a sudden now she wants to tell us about her childhood and how she can't really be sexually active with a man. But just a second ago, she was slut shaming Candy and saying that her pussy wasn't good. And I'm like, wait a minute. That caught me off guard because she said it so calmly, like, yeah, she was talking about Candy and how her pussy wasn't good. And I'm like, wait a minute. I'm like, we just started the second part of the reunion. Can we ease into this conversation? You know, Candy was sitting there like, wait a minute, my pussy's not good. I got the wop. So then Marlo, she jumps in and she's like, wait, hold on, Kenya. When did I ever say that about Candy? And I'm like, Marlo, please, you know, something about those flashbacks. They keep kicking Marlo and Sheree's ass. I do wonder if they truly do not remember what they said, because obviously they filmed within a couple of months, so maybe they forgot, or maybe they're just delusional and they just pretend like, okay, maybe they won't play the flashback, but no, they're gonna play the flashbacks and the receipt, Marlo. So you did say that, so again, contradicting yourself. So Andy moves the conversation over to Marlo and the potential robbery that could have happened at her house with these burglars breaking into her house, trying to steal something or who knows what. Marlo, luckily, she threatened them and she scared them off. They ran away and no harm was caused between her nephews, and whoever else was in the house. And I'm glad to hear that, because I can only imagine what type of traumatic experience that must be for somebody to try to break into your house and do who knows what. So and I don't believe that this whole situation was made up like Dorit from Beverly Hills. I feel like that situation, that was a whole thing for her to secure her spot and her diamond for this season. Marlo, I feel like this is actually genuine. I don't think that she would make this up, or at least I hope she wouldn't. Andy, he then moves Kenya into this situation and he's like, Kenya, you had tweeted this whole tweet saying, oh, I'm glad that Marlo and her nephews are fine or whatever, blah, blah, blah. But I'm just disappointed that, you know, you withheld this information from the cast and you went on to blast it on interviews instead of telling us first. And I feel like Kenya should have just never tweeted that in the first place, because, okay, you're tweeting that, but what do you want the audience to do with that? I mean, okay, they're going to read it, and then what? They're going to look at Marlo even worse than what they already see now, this entire season of Marlo. So again, what do you want us to do with that? If anything, you should have directed that into the group chat that you said that you had with the whole entire cast this season, and you should have told Marlo through a text like, Marlo, how come you're not telling us any of this, and why are you going on interviews first instead of telling us, you know, to give us a heads up on what's going on here in Atlanta? Andy then brings up how Marlo kicked out her nephews from her house in a very harsh way, and it caused a huge backlash with the audience. Marlo, she tried to clean it up, and she's like, well, Andy, the whole situation with that is just, I feel like people really got upset with me because of the way I said it, because I said, oh, I kicked them out. And I'm like, no, Marlo, that's not what you said. You did not say, I kicked them out. You said, and I quote, I kicked them the fuck out. That's what you initially said. So now you're trying to soften the blow? No. Don't try to clean it up now. So then Candy, she jumps in it, and Candy made a couple of valid points. She's like, Marlo, I just don't understand why you would kick your nephews out their house, knowing what you just told us a second ago about your childhood and how it was so horrible and how you kept going from foster home to foster home to foster home. I don't know why you would do that to your nephews. Wouldn't you want them to have a better life? So then Marlo, she's trying to clean it up. She's trying to have sympathy or whatever. And she's like, well, you know what, Candy? The whole situation with that is, you know, in the foster care system, you know, you have to take classes in order to be a foster parent. I didn't take those classes, and that was foolish of me. I didn't really know what I was getting myself into. And I'm like, okay, Marlo, but whose fault is that? If you didn't know what you were getting yourself into, don't you think that, maybe, you know, if I'm struggling with this, maybe I should get help instead of what? Resorting to kicking them out, or in your words, kicking them the fuck out your house and giving them over to your sister who already has, what, I believe 4 children in her house? Like, where's the common sense in that? Andy, he continues on with Marlo. He's like, so Marlo, why do you always, you know, you spoil all the foster girls in your organization, but for Michael and William, it's the opposite? And I never really thought about that. I'm like, why is that? So then Marlo, she went on and she's like, well, you know, with the foster girls, I barely ever see them. So for Christmas, for prom, for special occasions, I want them to be spoiled. I want them to feel special. Michael and William, they're always around me. And I don't think that she doesn't spoil Michael and William. I mean, yeah, she had her moments, a lot of moments this season where she was painted out in a very bad lighting, or she painted out herself to be in a very bad lighting with Michael and William, but I feel like she does spoil them. I mean, she had her good, moment here and there with Michael and William this season, especially at the beginning of the season when they went to prom, I believe, or they went to homecoming and Marlo was so excited and she got them all ready and dressed and everything. So I believe that Marlo, she does have her good moments in their relationship. We just so happen to see mostly the bad ones. So then Andy, he continues on with Marlo and he's like, so have you talked to your sister, aka Michael and William's mom? Have you talked to her at all ever since that last phone call? Unfortunately, Marlo goes on to say, no, she has not. And that's pretty sad. I mean, it's been a couple of months at this point, I'm assuming. And she hasn't talked to her. Nothing has happened. I mean, I can only imagine, what Marlo is feeling or whatever, with her sister in that relationship. But I can only imagine what Michael and William feel. I mean, if she hasn't talked to them, I'm pretty sure that they haven't talked to her as well. So that's pretty sad. I thought, maybe we'll see something positive out of it, but... So then Andy, I feel like Andy was just 2 seconds away from changing Marlo's diaper and giving her a bottle because she was just babying her. He was just babying her a lot. He was just like, oh, Marlo, oh, my precious peach holder. You're going to be the center peach next season, okay? I'm so glad that you told us your story. I'm pretty sure that everybody's going to sympathize with you already. And I'm like, Andy, again, like he's trying to paint Marlo out to be like this soft, cuddly teddy bear. And I'm like, that's not what we saw all season. But okay, I guess he's just trying to change the narrative. So then Kenya... Kenya is so petty. Kenya, she starts playing around with her nose or whatever. She starts sniffing around. Andy, he notices that and he's like, Kenya, what's going on? Kenya's like, I'm sorry. Can I get one of those tissues? One of those tissues that Candace uses at every reunion for the Potomac Housewives? Yeah, one of those. Okay, thank you. I'm sorry, Andy. Andy, he's like, wait, Kenya, what's going on? Are you getting emotional because of everything that Marlo is saying? Kenya, what does Kenya say? Kenya's like, no, my nose is just cold. So damn petty. She knew what she was doing. Marlo looks so pissed. At that point, if I was Marlo, I would just go right back to my old ways. Like, okay, yeah, I was looking for sympathy for a second, but you know what? Kenya, you're this, and this, and this. Andy then ends the conversation by telling Marlo, thank you so much for having the courage and the will to actually share your story. Thank you so much for being a stronger person because of that. I'm pretty sure that the audience is going to connect with you on a whole different level now. And I'm like, well, damn, Andy, you might as well just tattoo your lips to Marlo's ass. I don't understand why you're just moving on from the topic when this was a huge conversation this entire season of Marlo and her nephews. And he's just like, oh, here's a pat on the back. Now for next time, let's move on. Like, okay, that was it. But so then Kenya, she whispers something underneath her breath and she's like, yeah, she's just doing damage control. Marlo, she overheard that, and I'm not really sure what she said back to her. I think she was just like, oh, you evil bitch. So then she actually made a good point, though, when she was just like, well, between me and Kenya, we're actually, like, very similar to each other. We're very much like the same person. And honestly, yeah, I mean, if you really look at it, Marlo and Kenya, they're kind of like the same person. Everybody seems to forget how Kenya used to be when she first got onto the show, season 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. And how she used to be, now all of a sudden this season specifically, she's having a much more softer side. She's showing us that she could have fun and just be in the background and not really do much. We all remember, or at least I remember how Kenya used to be. So I will actually agree with Marlo how both of them, they are kind of like the same person. It's just now Kenya, she knows how to kind of go in a different direction. Marlo, from day one, she has shown us that she could go below the belt every single time, even up to this reunion. She has not shown us any other side. I mean, at this reunion, this part specifically, yeah, she's trying to show us that she could be vulnerable and softer and stuff, but is it working? No. Andy then moves the conversation back over to Sheree, and he's like, so Sheree, how did it feel for the audience to constantly throw spring, summer, September in your face? Sheree's like, well, Andy, that was pretty embarrassing. I mean, can you imagine being in Sheree's shoes for all these years and having the audience constantly question you about, where's she by Sheree? Where is she by Sheree? You said spring, summer, September. It's about to be fall. What's going on here? I mean, it must be exhausting. And speaking of merch, let's talk about Drew's merch that she just dropped last night. So her merch consists of sweaters and shirts that says, oh, I was invited and then I was uninvited, because of the whole thing with her and Sonya at the beginning of the season when she uninvited her to her photo shoot. I don't know why she would put that on a shirt though. I mean, who's walking around with a shirt that says I was invited and then I was uninvited? I mean, out of all the things that you said this season, that's what you decided to go with? I mean, why not put new bone collector in charge with a giant bone in the middle? Or even put, is your husband in Tampa with a giant question mark in the middle? Something like that. It would have been cute. But regardless, Drew's merchandise, it is nice and you can get it easily on her website. Unlike Sheree's website, you need Dora the Explorer's help just to simply get to it. So then Andy, he looks over at Candy. He's like, so Candy, let's talk about Kenya's behavior. What do you think about her new behavior this season? Candy, she goes on to say, well, I just feel like with Kenya, she had a lot of good things going on in her life, and Dancing with the Stars really had a huge impact on her life. I feel like so much positivity was going on in her life, and I feel like that's what she went into the season with, a lot of positivity. So then he moves it over to Kenya. He's like, so Kenya, is that true? What do you think about that? Kenya, she gets a little emotional because she's like, yeah, Dancing with the Stars did have a huge impact on my life because her and her grandmother connected through dancing a lot. And she starts getting all choked up and emotional. She starts crying. And even though I felt for Kenya, and I'm glad that Dancing with the Stars did something positive to her life by connecting her to her grandmother, the other part of me was looking over at Marlo like, Marlo, if I was you, I would have done the same thing that she did to me earlier when I was telling my sad story. And I would have been like, oh, Andy, can I get a tissue? Oh, no, I'm not getting emotional. It's just my nose is cold. I would have done the same thing just to be petty. Like, you could do the same thing to me. Well, I'm going to do it back to you. So then they start talking about Sonya and Kenya's relationship. You know, Sonya was sitting there in that dress like, oh man, they're going to play that clip of me calling her a bitch after I hung up on her. I'm so scared. Hi, Kenya, please be my friend, okay? I didn't mean it. So before they play, I was just kidding. I was just doing it because Marlo was there. You know, she was shaking in that two-for-one dress that she had on. So then they play that. Kenya's like, I don't regret ever hanging up on her. I mean, it is what it is. And then they start talking about how Sonya just kept going on with this whole couples trip. You need to bring somebody else. Sonya's excuse all of a sudden, her excuse is, oh, well, you know, I was just so glad that they even offered somebody to, you know, to bring a plus one. That's why I was so passionate about Kenya bringing somebody else. And I'm like, Sonya, who are you fooling? Because all season long, you made it seem like you had to bring a plus one. Like, you have to bring a man. You have to bring a man. You need to bring somebody else. I don't care if you're going through a divorce. You need to bring somebody else. I don't care if you're single. Go on Tinder and find somebody to bring on this Jamaican trip. Now, all of a sudden, here at the reunion, it's, oh, you know, I was just so fortunate that IAmRafael will even extend their invitation out to a plus one of my guests. Like, stop it. That's not what you made it seem. Like, cut it out. Andy then goes on to ask Sheree, what did you mean by telling Sonya, oh, you better handle Kenya at the dinner in Jamaica? Sheree goes on to say that Kenya is a very intense person, and if you back down to her, she's just gonna walk all over you. And yes, I must agree with Sheree, because Kenya, the second that she smells blood in the water, she's just gonna think that she has control over you. Like, oh, I could say whatever and do whatever to her, and she's not gonna do anything back to me. She can't even go one-on-one with me. And that was Sonya's issue. Sonya, every time she tried to go against Kenya, she kind of folded and backed down to her like, oh, okay, I'm gonna say this to you, but I'm kind of scared, so I'm just gonna give you a little bit, but then I'm gonna back off. And that was Sonya's problem. That's why she looked like a punk in every single argument that she had with Kenya. And Kenya, she just didn't take her serious, nor did she respect her, nor did she kind of respect Drew at the beginning of the season as well. But I think that over time she kind of saw, yeah, Drew, she could kind of hold her own, so I respect her. As for Sonya, yeah, Sonya, she can't hold her own, so I'm not even gonna take her serious. Then they started talking about Ross and his behavior and how he got up and said, you know, nobody fucks with my wife. They just kind of skimmed over that. Kenya was just like, well, you know, I understand that and I respect it and blah blah blah. And I'm like, you respect it, but just a second ago, on a couple of episodes ago, you said, oh, he was aggressive, you didn't like that he got up, he shouldn't be talking to women like that. But now you're like, oh, okay, I accept it and I'm moving on. And that was that. I mean, Andy was just flying by with these topics, but he gave Marlo a whole 3 hours of her talking about her story and her childhood. But he was just going through these topics like, how do you feel about this? Oh, you do? Okay, next. How do you feel about this subject? Oh yeah, you do too. Okay, next. Like, he just kept flying through the subjects, and I'm like, okay, we might as well just end the reunion at this point. They started talking about Kenya's birthday party that she had for Brooklyn, and if it was a smart idea for Kenya to play that game, you know, the shady game that, oh, you have to write down something that you heard from somebody or whatever. Kenya's like, yeah, I thought it was a good idea. I didn't think it was going to escalate to what it was. And I'm like, Kenya, please, you've been on the show since season 5. I'm pretty sure that you knew what you were doing. So then I believe Andy goes on to ask Sheree. So Sheree, I mean, you know, your comment about Candy, about her sucking dick in the locker room, I'm still not over that. You know, Candy, how do you feel about that? And then Sheree's just like, I mean, I don't know why Candy will be upset. I mean, you have sex everywhere, right? So, I mean, you suck dick everywhere. I'm pretty sure you do. So what's the problem? The fact that Sheree says it so seriously, too. Candy's like, wait a minute. If I suck dick in the locker room and if I suck dick everywhere, then so do you, right? Sheree's like, yeah, but not in a locker room. Again, bring back Sheree for next season. I don't care what anybody says. Eventually, Andy's like, okay, so who wants to admit to writing that note about Candy? Everybody's just quiet. The birds are chirping. Kenya, she's like, okay, so I finally want to confess something. it wasn't me. And I'm just like, ugh, for a second I'm like, is it gonna be her? But I wish that Andy would have pressed the cast a little bit more, like go down the line, like who do you think at least was the one that wrote the note? Maybe, something would have happened, but no, he kind of just skipped over that conversation as well. And that was that. And then he moved over to Kenya. He's like, so Kenya, do you still feel like you have the same positivity from the very beginning of the season? Kenya was like, yeah, I'm still good. I'm still fine. Everybody's DMing me. They all want to meet me. I'm taking everybody's man. And I'm like, ooh, okay, Portia Williams. Let's not act like we haven't seen this story before already, Kenya, with you, Apollo, and Phaedra. Sanya starts talking about her marriage to Ross and how she's willing to have another baby together if Ross is open to her concerns that she had at the beginning of the season. If we all remember, Sanya had mentioned that when she gave birth to Deuce, Ross was nowhere in the picture. He was nowhere to be found. He was everywhere else but at home trying to raise him together. So then Andy, he brings up Drew's comment that she made to Sanya about, oh, you need to keep your man happy. You need to do whatever to make him happy. You need to have this baby by him to make him happy regardless of whatever way you feel. And I still cringe at that. And Drew, she tried to defend it by saying, oh, well, no, what I meant was, well, if she doesn't want to have a baby by him because of medical reasons, then I understand that. But other than that, yeah, why not give him a baby? And Drew, no, it's 2022. And women, come over here. Get a little closer. Get a little closer. Fuck these men. Like, don't ever back down to any man just to make him happy, just because, oh, maybe he'll stay, maybe he'll leave me if I don't have a baby by him, or maybe he'll leave me if I don't do X, Y, and Z. No, if that's all it takes for him to leave, then let him walk out the door. It is what it is. Like Drew, again, and this is coming from Drew, and we all saw how her marriage is with Ralph. She still to this day doesn't know where he was in Tampa, or what was he doing over there. So she's the last one that should be given any type of marriage advice. Like, he barely lets you read the book that he was publishing, let alone be on the cover of it. Yet you want Sanya to give Ross a baby to make him happy? No, Drew. Andy then moves it over to Marlo, and he's like, so why do you find it so shocking that Kenya does not want to be your friend anymore after you talked about her mom, her daughter, and her husband? Marlo, she's like, well, I get it now. Kenya, she's very manipulative. The only time she ever wanted to be my friend was when she wanted information on Portia. And Portia was probably watching this episode from home, inside her bed, cuddling next to Simon, like, wait a minute, they just mentioned my name. Hold on, babe. Stop touching me. Hold on, they just mentioned my name. Kenya, she's like, no, stop. You're lying. You're the one that didn't want to be friends with Portia. You were trying to manipulate me to not be friends with Portia. Portia, all of this and all of that. They started getting into it. Kenya, she's like, you know what, Marlo? Everything about you is fake. All the whole story that you gave earlier, it's fake. All your emotions are fake. You know what's even more fake about you? Your name, Latoya Hutcherson. And I don't even know why Sanya or Drew had the shocking expression that they had. They were like, you would have thought that they took a class from Kyle Richards. The way they were so shocked about that. I'm like, okay. She said that her name was Latoya. To me, it kind of fell flat. I'm like, okay, that's it, like Latoya. Like, so what? Marlo, she's like, oh, Latoya's my friend. I don't know what you're talking about. Eventually, Andy cut in and he's like, okay, enough. He moves it over to Kenya and he's like, so why do you think that Marlo's words are hurtful, but it's okay for you to also be hurtful with other people? Kenya, she goes on to say, well, Marlo is a very exasperous person. She's a very vapid person. And I was with Marlo and Marlo was just like, yeah, I'm going to have to Google what those words mean later. I did not understand what Kenya was talking about using those big ass words. So Kenya, she goes on to say, yeah, Marlo, she's just all fake. She wants to talk about everybody else on the show except what she went through herself. She wants to talk about her mom, her nephews, everybody else. But again, we don't talk about that she went to jail, because she slashed a girl in her face. And Marlo's like, wait, no, I did mention that. You could Google it. It's all over the internet. There's no secret. So again, and Kenya, she continued listing off all these issues that Marlo had in her life, from jail to this, that, and the third. She went to prison. Marlo was like, no, I went to county jail, not prison. As if that's any better, but okay. So then Marlo, something hit a nerve with her, because after Kenya was done with her long list of stuff that she had against Marlo was just like, hold on, Andy. Kenya, you are a lying bitch. She was so serious about it. And she was like, I want you to apologize to me after this on Instagram. I want you to post an apology. I want you to say sorry to me. And I'm like, oh, please, Marlo. As if you really think that Kenya's really going to get on internet after this reunion and say, oh, you know what? I'm so sorry for everything I said. No, that's not going to happen. But they start talking about Sheree and Drew's friendship and how everything went left because of the assistant, Anthony. So Andy, he asked Sheree, is Anthony your actual assistant? Because I saw that in your phone. You have him saved as your assistant. Sheree, what does she start doing? She's like, no, he's not my assistant. No, I have him saved like that in my phone because, I meet so many people and I just save him as an assistant to remember his name. Like, Sheree, what kind of BS excuse is that? Like, so you mean to tell me you meet so many strangers on a daily basis, and let's say you just get some of their numbers, right? You save them as, oh, for example, Jennifer, assistant? Like, why? She goes on to say, yeah, I have so many people saved as painters, assistants, so and so and so. And I'm like, okay, Sheree, if that's what you want to go with, that's what we're going to go with. So then Drew, she's like, wait. So I actually have a recording of Anthony actually speaking to Ralph about this whole gay rumor that Sheree actually brought up. So she brings it up. And what is Anthony doing? He's basically trashing Sheree. He's claiming that he never called Ralph gay and that Sheree has it in for him. Anthony is such a flip-flop. At this point, I feel like he's trying to secure not his peach, but his strawberry for next season as the front of the show. He's trying to be the new Dwight. So then Sheree's like, hold on. No, he was never my assistant. But you know what? Let me call him right now so he could confirm this. And I'm like, let's see if he picks up. But he does. And you know, something about the Housewives shows that I'm so impressed by is that no matter where they film or where they're at, they're always having good connection on their phone calls. Like, it's never like, oh, you know, bad Wi-Fi, bad this, bad nothing. Everything looks so crystal clear. And if it was up to me and my phone, I'll be like, hold on, Andy, can we go to commercial break? Like, I have no connection here. The Wi-Fi is acting up. But no, she calls Anthony. Anthony, he's snuggled up in bed. You know, Anthony, he probably got all dressed and all ready, like with his bow tie, a nice shirt, nice pants, nice shoes, nice everything. Like, he probably got everything done, all glammed up and everything, just so he could be on FaceTime and be seen for like 2 seconds. So Sheree's like, can you just confirm to everybody, you know, that you're not my assistant? And he's like, no, I'm not your assistant. You don't owe me any type of money. That's that or whatever. And then what does he proceed to do? He proceeds to flip on Drew. He starts saying, oh, she just needed a storyline. She just needed a motive to get onto the show, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, wow. I was Sonya because Sonya was shocked. Sonya was like, like, you know, he's kind of like breaking the fourth wall because when you use the word storyline on the show with the cameras rolling, it's kind of awkward. It's just like you're not supposed to actually use those words. It's supposed to be reality TV. Like, we're supposed to just go with the flow type of thing. But, you know, that was that. Anthony, such a flip-flop and such a missed opportunity on having Anthony at the actual reunion. Like, they could have given him a little stool, a little chair, a little something next to Sonya to share his side of the story. But no, we got him through a phone call. And, you know, as dry as this reunion was, kind of, you know, they could have brought Fatum, honestly. I mean, at first I was like, no, she's too thirsty. But at this point, you know what? Fuck it. They should have brought Fatum. They should have brought Dwight. They should have even brought Deshaun from season 1. For this dry ass reunion, you know, and then on top of that, we're gonna have a third part for next week. Like, for what? We could have wrapped this up in like a half an hour or something with 2 commercials. But let me know what you all thought about part 2 of this reunion, and I will see you all at the third and final part of this reunion. Bye, everybody. Mwah.